Everyone, back tuning into today's video. It's JMA Friday today. We're going to have a look at the weather for the coming month from the Japanese model, as we do every Friday. This takes us to the start of October, can you believe, into the opening couple of days of next month, so going well on into the autumn with this update. We're also going to have a look at Huug Dool's charts at the end of the video. Now, Huug is a American-based forecaster creating long-range forecast based on sea surface temperature anomalies and analogues. We'll have a look at those in a moment, and I'll explain all about them at the end of the video. Before I get on with that, though, I just want to mention the ads. There's video ads on my pages at gazweathers.com. You can find your way to hitting play on the video ad. You'll be helping to support gazweathers.com. Thanks so much for doing that. The video ad essentially pays the website. It allows me to sit here and talk to you via the website. So if you could get involved and hit play, you'll be supporting Gazweathers. Thanks so much for doing that. So starting off as usual with JMA Friday, the Japanese model. We've got 500 millibar height anomaly charts broken down into weekly periods here. The first week period will be taking us from the 4th to the 11th of September. We see first of all that the British Isles is upside down on this chart we're just there, but it's relatively easy to make out what the model is showing. For the coming weekly period, we've got a trough of low pressure out to the west of the country, down to the southwest. We've got a ridge of high pressure up to the east and the northeast. Quite a strong ridge of high pressure there, and that's sort of a breaking down scenario, I think, mainly dry, particularly to the east of the country with that high pressure. But this trough out to the west is threatening, or down to the southwest I should say, is threatening at times to introduce more unsettled conditions. And the latest updates from the shorter range models this morning are indicating that things could turn more unsettled as we head through the end of next week and in towards the middle of the month. So that chart is sort of representing the idea that low pressure is threatening from the south and the west, but the ridge is still just about holding on for the coming week. It's a pretty good representation, I think, of where we are. Now, as we get through to the second week period, which takes us from the 11th to the 18th of September, we're finding that the ridge is moving away to the northeast. It's slipping away, receding backwards up to the northeast. The trough is becoming more influential out in the Atlantic. It's an unsettled, more unsettled scenario with low pressure coming in from the west. Winds are from a southerly to southwesterly direction, so it isn't cold going that way, the air, but overall I think it is a more unsettled scenario through the middle of the month as that high pressure recedes away up to the northeast. Excuse me. And then going through to the 2 weekly period from the 18th of September to the 2nd of October. Bit of a puzzle this one, but we're basically finding the heights building in the central part of the Atlantic, pulling back in towards the mid-Atlantic. It doesn't really show, but I would suspect there's a trough then in association with that, so the jet stream is probably doing something like that, going to the north of that ridge in the central Atlantic, and then more than likely moving southwards, something like that. So it could be quite unsettled and quite cool, actually, that I think, to the latter stages of September. That's if that trough does form in the 500 millibar flow. There's not a great deal of evidence that that's what's going on, but I think with the heights pulling back into the central part of the Atlantic like that, the ridge going back towards really being centred off the coast of Newfoundland, I would suspect that there is going to be a corresponding trough somewhere in our vicinity of the Atlantic. So the idea from the Japanese model is similar to what it has been for a few updates now. It's that we're starting off September on with a lot of dry weather, a fine note, and then things are turning cooler and more unsettled as we go through to the second half of September. The CFS is seeing this change still to cooler weather through the second half and more unsettled weather as well. This is the city temperature forecast for Birmingham from the website weatherweb.net. I showed you this yesterday, I think, but we'll just do it again. This is the latest update, so it's a little bit different to yesterday, but it's the same sort of trend. We're starting off warmer than average up to around the middle of the month. This is the 16th of September just here, quite warm weather, although it is very dependent, this warmth, on cloud. Where I am, we've been stuck under cloud for quite a while now. Certainly all of yesterday was very cloudy, and looks like today it'll be a repeat performance. Where the cloud is forming, it's an awful lot cooler. Temperatures technically could get up to around 25, 26 degrees over the next day or two in the south, around 80 Fahrenheit, but it is very dependent on whether that cloud does actually break up. Anyway, we're starting off quite warm up to the middle of September, and then going through to the second half of the month, look, we get this plunge down in the temperature, going back to pretty chilly temperatures actually as we get through towards the 18th, 19th of the month. We've gone below average to that point, and then we stay generally quite cool then going out through the rest of the month. So we get to the 1st of October, which is just here, but temperatures have never got back to where they was through the first half of September. Get a little bit of a recovery maybe through the early stages of October, but only to around the early October average, and then it's generally quite cool then through the rest of October. And as we get through towards the middle of the month, this is the 16th just here, there is the suggestion that we could start to see some frosts beginning to come into play during the middle of October, but that's a long way off, of course, 6 weeks away. We can't take that seriously, but the overall idea is similar to the Japanese model in that we're starting off quite warm and then we're turning it cooler. Are we turning it more unsettled with the CFS? Yes, we are, and I'm not sure if I said this, by the way, you can find these charts from the CFS model at website.weatherweb.net, and you can find the link to that on my links page. So here we go on the 11th of September. This is the week ending the 11th of September. The precipitation forecast showing quite a dry week through the coming week. There will be some shower, particularly in the northeast, but most places dry. But as we get through to the second week period, the week ending the 18th of September, the precipitation anomaly is going up. We're starting to bring rainfall through. Not a washout of a week, but more unsettled. Get through to the next weekly period, the 25th of September, and there we go. We've got a wetter than average week. We properly broke down the pattern, and the CFS is still seeing this change, as is the Japanese, for a month of two halves really for September. Warm and dry the first half, cooler and much more unsettled in the second half. We'll see how that goes. Here is the generic chart very quickly from the GFS and the ECWF. This is for a week away. The GFS model seeing low pressure starting to develop to the south. That could be a thundery low. Have to watch out for that. At the end of next week, we may start bringing some thundery weather into the south. But the overall idea is that things are starting to break down, starting to turn more unsettled with some showers breaking out. The ECMWF delays it somewhat. This takes us to the middle of the month, the 15th of September, but overall it's the same idea with low pressure beginning to push up. So whilst it's still 8 to 10 days away, so it's a long way off, we may just be starting to firm up this morning with these high resolution generic charts. We may be starting to firm up on the idea that we're heading for a breakdown sometime around, say, the 11th to the 15th, sometime in that period. Hard to pin the exact day down when it'll start to break, but the fine weather probably breaking sometime around the 11th to the 15th of September. That's the idea from the models this morning. We'll see how it goes. Now, as I said at the start of the video, I had an update from Huug. Dool. He's an American-based forecaster, comes under the umbrella of NOAA, NOAA, the official weather forecasting agency in the United States. But it's not a seasonal model, this. What this is an analog-based forecast. So Huug has got together all of the sea surface temperature maps through the course of August, which was generated through August. And then he's taken those sea surface temperature anomalies, and he's sort of created an analog based forecast on years with similar sea surface temperature anomalies across the globe, and from that he's created these forecasts. They go out quite a long way actually. He's even started predicting weather for next summer, but we concentrate on the winter with this. So the first thing to say is that Huug is seeing a central based Madoki El Nino through the course of this winter. There we go, the Pacific just there. Remember, El Nino is warm water stretching from the coast of Peru through to Indonesia. When you get those the warm water rising up through that equatorial part of the Pacific, that is the El Nino. He's in a central based El Nino, which has differing effects compared to a general El Nino, which is the warm water is evenly distributed from Peru over towards Indonesia. When you get it in the central part of the Pacific, it can have quite differing effects. I'm going to talk more about this on my first winter update, which you'll be able to see on Sunday. But anyway, there we go. Huug is forecasting a central-based El Nino for the winter. Excuse me. And this is the corresponding 500 millibar height anomaly chart that Huug is predicting for the winter. This is the 500 millibar anomaly chart for December to February, and we're seeing masses of red here across the northern latitudes, stretched out from the northeast of Canada going through to Greenland, and then look at that going through to the north of Scandinavia as well. Correspondingly, we've got a deep trough of low pressure underneath it running through the Atlantic and into Western Europe. That's a very negative North Atlantic oscillation blocking to the north and a trough to the south. That trough stretches from the southeastern coast of the state, so this implies that the northeast of the state is going to get hit by another very cold winter. But the difference between this winter and last winter, if Huug is correct, is that much of Europe is going to be included in that cold weather as well, because we've got the blocking to the north forcing the trough, and it's going to be an active Atlantic if this is right, similar to last year, but forcing the trough much further southwards into almost the tropical part of the Atlantic, and then running in towards Europe. So let's see what the temperature forecast is. Excuse me, again, a very cold winter being predicted here for most parts of Europe. Bitterly cold, particularly centred around central and western parts of Russia. But that cold, the blue curves do extend into most of Europe. But British Isles is just on the periphery of that. There we are over here, and we're always on the periphery of the cold and the warm. Of course, that's where we are in the world, so we're always on the periphery between the mild ocean, the warm ocean, and the cold, frozen continent. But this is showing us sort of near normal, so Huug probably hedging his bets a little bit on whether this cold gets right the way back into the far west of Europe. But on that sort of anomaly, 500 millibar height anomaly, I would suspect would have quite a lot of cold weather, significantly cold weather at times through the winter, with periods of moderation. Of course, being on the far west of Europe, we're right next to that trough, so that implies perhaps lots of battles going on, and I don't need to say the word snow resulting from that. And going through to the precipitation forecast from Huug van Dool, he's seeing near normal sort of precipitation really, but notice all the rain out in the Atlantic. That's with the trough being sort of blocked out in the Atlantic by the high pressure up to the north and the northeast. Notice drier than average anomalies over Scandinavia, implies there's a lot of blocking up there. And overall, that's a very interesting update from Huug van Dool for the winter. Now, it's a long way off. We're only in September, so we're going to have to see how these updates progress over the next few months, next couple of months anyway. But on the face of it, very interesting. We can certainly be keeping an eye on that. And talking of winter, as I said a few moments ago, I'll be starting the winter updates on GavsWeatherNews.com from Sunday. We'll be starting to look at how snow cover is beginning to develop across Siberia. We'll be having a look more in depth at what a Modoki El Nino, a central-based El Nino, can mean. Looking at solar activity, some other stuff as well, so it'll be very interesting. Come back to that on Sunday if you're interested. In the meantime, it's the weekend forecast tomorrow, so if you want to know what weather's going to be doing next week, come back for that tomorrow. Lots of updates going on, and that's it for now. Thanks for watching.